let's head to the Atlantic. Let's cross over and hit up these teams. We are going to start where it seems like we always start at the top of this division, and that is with the Brooklyn Nets, who they sit in second place, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be overtaken by Sixers anytime soon. The new superpower in the league, or the new Thanos, as George likes to call it. I think that's what you called it. They're 3-1 this week. They're 34-16 overall. What's happening in Brooklyn, George?
Ooh, things are good, man. Things are good. Well, let's look at the week before we start. Let's look at the week. They played 4 games. They had Timberwolves, Rockets, Charlotte. Okay. And the Bulls, sorry. And out of all of these, they lost to the Bulls. Okay, so me personally, I was hoping for a sweep week. So yeah, I didn't know how to feel about this one, because when I woke up and I saw the results, I was happy for like the Bulls and everything. But then, of course, I saw it was the Nets. That game, again, it was one of those ones which we spoke about before, which was tough to watch. Irving did try and will the team back into it, especially towards the end. But I think by that time it was a bit too little too late. Booch was putting on a show, and he has been for the Bulls.
Who's Booch?
I said Booch.
I heard Booch. Some alter ego. Is that like the Bulls' alter ego? It's called Booch now?
Yeah, Booch.
Yeah,
so Booch has been putting on a show, and he had another good performance in that game, finished with a double-double. I think it was ended 20 points and 11 rebounds in that game. So, yeah, very good with that. Again, it seems at this moment, because KD's out and, of course, Harden has recently gone out as well, Nash is trying to test new combinations with the teams and adjust it while he has this time to do so, to build that chemistry before obviously KD's soon return. Can't wait for that, to help out a bit more, which will be great. So one of the big trials which they did try was obviously the Griffin and Aldridge combination. From what it seemed, it didn't quite go as well as they were expecting. While they were on the floor, within the first couple of minutes, let me just get the results of. So they were outscored by 10 points. So yeah, not really what they wanted there. However, with that being said, Marcus Aldridge, since his start, has averaged 11 points and 6 rebounds in the first 2 games for Brooklyn, which is not too bad. And on Wednesday night, of course, Harden left the game with that third quarter due to hamstring tightness. But yeah, man, it was an odd one. We'll see how they get on going forward. They've got the Knicks, Pelicans, and Lakers coming up. So yeah.
You make a point about Blake and Aldridge. They actually, not only did they get outscored by 10 points, but they both sat the final 16 minutes. So when the Nets were trying to make a push to get back into the game, like you said with Kyrie, he had 15 assists. They weren't used. I just wanted to ask Jordan, in what situation works well for the Nets to use Blake and LaMarcus? And does that work for them moving forward? Like when it comes to playoff time, crunch time, how are they going to utilize these players? What do you see?
Yeah, again, that's a tough one. From what I saw, I didn't very much like it. For me, and from what I've heard, it's not something that we will see often. And even Nash quoted himself that it's not something that he's going to lean into heavily. I think it was definitely a fun experiment to try it out. But I don't, when you've got other options and better combinations on the field, I don't see that as a potential, like, okay, guys, we're gonna pull this move out to big us up. So I don't think we'll rarely see an appearance from that. You know, it's kind of that thing which you just want to sweep under the carpet and just But then it'll go away for a little bit.
leave no evidence. Okay, I get you.
Mm-hmm.
The second team, we're still number one, and I was so excited to talk about the Sixers because I messaged Bray and I was like, "Thank you, Bulls. You've done us a huge favor. You've got us a win. Let's beat the Grizzlies tonight." What happens? Get absolutely blown up by the Grizzlies at home. It's a joke. It's a joke. Philly fans are known for being fickle. I'm a bit fickle. I'm pissed off. We're 2-2 this week with the same record as the Nets. We are 34-16 as well. Wiley, take the reins on this one. I'm still annoyed about last night, bro.
Yeah, man, I'm going to do you a little bit of justice. I definitely couldn't call you a fickle fan, but yeah, pissed off. Fair enough, dude. I will say that you guys have been really sort of holding it down without Embiid. Obviously, he has now made his return, but they're not playing him in back-to-backs, which is why that you've struggled a little bit this week. I think maybe you guys are finally just sort of got your arms in the air, like, can we get our superstar back, please? You're at the point now where Brooklyn and you guys are actually tied at the top now. So it's now in the home stretch. It's going to see who's going to get that home court advantage all the way through, hopefully up until the finals if they can get there. But I just want to. I mean, you guys finally beat Cleveland, which isn't something to rave about. But my God, this season you played them 3 times. The first 2 times you guys lost to them, and you guys got the win. Thank God, and without Embiid as well. And it wasn't because of the starters, man. Shake Milton had 27, 5 and 4, and Dwight Howard 18 and 15. Okay.
The big man.
Yeah, bro, shake your
Hall
head.
of Famer. Stop it.
Shake Milton your head, Bray. I'm telling you right now.
Dwight Howard,
okay. Dwight Howard
is Superman.
Dwight Howard is 18th in the league in rebounds with only 17 minutes. In the top, he has the least amount of minutes in the top 50 rebounders in the league. This man is coming off the bench and putting in work. So I do really like what he's doing. Me and Alex have been buzzing about that pickup from the get-go of the season. So I'm really glad that is working out the way that it is.
2 million.
What do you say?
2 million.
2 million.
Is that it?
Man, crazy stuff. So it's awesome, man. Yeah, and they're second in defensive efficiency and 13th in offensive. So with Embiid coming back a bit more regularly, you'll expect to see the position of 13th in offensive efficiency go up as well. So again, hats off to the coaching to maintain through this time, because yeah, man, you're tied top and you haven't even had your main boy, which I know you could set up for the Nets too, but
Yeah, there's some really fun storylines with the Sixers this week. Without Embiid, we were top. We had the top defense by 5 points next to the closest competitor, which was really good. We had the Cat and Embiid matchup, which was amazing to watch because we haven't seen a rivalry like that in a long time, and we're going to talk about that and shoot your shot. So we're going to hold that thought.
Yeah.
And then the final point that I wanted to talk about is Ben Simmons. What are you doing, bro? You have 5 points against the Cavs, and then you have 7 points against the Grizzlies. Where's the aggressiveness gone?
We was aggressive in the first quarter. I was watching it live, and if you watch that first quarter, you go, "All right, here we go. We're about to have a big Ben game," but it just didn't happen that way. So I don't know where it starts and ends with him. Within the game, he picks his spots, man. But yeah, it's one of those silly games because they're not even that big a team. Like, and anybody who's as big as him, he's way faster. So he should be doing bits on them.
Yeah. Let's talk about something which is a bit off the court. We're talking about Tobias. He's had a really good week recently. He had a team high against the Timberwolves, or a sixer high, sorry. And he collaborated with Boban, Mr. Eurong. Bobby and Toby are back in the new Goldfish Crackers commercial, which is really funny. All check it out. It's really good. Wadi, I wanted to know, who is your favourite friendship in the league? We'll go all time. Which two guys do you like seeing joke around and have some fun?
I really like D Wade and Shaq friendship. That was one of my more favourites because Shaq's a prankster, and yeah, it was really young Wade, but he had all the athleticism in the world and all the skill and a bright future. And I think Shaq came in saying to D Wade, "Hey man, like, all this crap that happened with Kobe. If we're going to win a championship, we can't have these problems," kind of thing. And it worked out well, man. Yeah, so if I was going all the time, that would be my favourite. I also like the fact that Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady never knew they were cousins before they were actually on an NBA franchise together. Obviously, it's a bit sad that they never stayed together because T-Mac was, he's as good, if not better than VC in my opinion. And he wanted his own team, and it just didn't work out. So, but I think potentially that could have been my favourite. But I'm going with Shaq and D Wade.
All right, cool. The Sixers' main rival is the Boston Celtics, and we're going to head there next. This team is 500. It seems all the time this team is 500. 2-2 this week. They're 25 and 25 overall. Bray, what's going on in Bostonia?
Yeah, it's been an interesting few weeks. Obviously, since we last spoke about them, they add Evan Fournier to the roster. They lose Daniel Tice. They add, I think it was Luke Cornett they ended up with after.
Yeah.
They end up with Luke Cornett. So it's a slightly different roster, but if you asked before the trade deadline, you would have said it should be more different because they had that massive trade exception. Everyone was floundering, panicking. I think probably for the week after the trade deadline, we saw Evan Fournier come out, shoot like 0 of 10 in his first game. Everyone's going, "Oh, the Celtics are rubbish. They've blown it. Look at what they got back from all those Nets picks, and they've done nothing. They're not even a contender." And everyone's like, "Oh, they're so underwhelming." I would like to remind everyone, even at 500, they are one game out of the 4 seed. They are very much in the mix. If you told me at the start of the year the Boston Celtics will be in, a 4, 5, or 6 seed, I'd probably say that's about right. Does anyone else expect any more of them? Personally not. As you said, 5-5 in their last 10 losses to the Mavs, to the Bucks. Fair enough. Those are some good teams. Also to the Pelicans, the Grizzlies, the Kings. That's disappointing, isn't it? I mean, again, we're back in the modicum of inconsistency, but I think part of that is due to the new pieces fitting in. How do they fit in, and what does it look like? So Fournier is obviously, still finding his footing, but is an excellent piece to add to this roster, which was exemplified in their win against the Hornets. And they killed the Hornets. Granted, the Hornets are not the team they've been all season because they don't have their star point guard and their star small forward, who are the 2 best players on the team. So we'll take this with a pinch of salt. But importantly for the Celtics, no one played more than 28 minutes. That was the highest total anyone played. Tatum and Smart both played 28 minutes. And the scoring was 22 for Tatum, 17 for Brown, 16 for the Time Lord, 12 for Marcus Smart, 12 for Kemba, 17 for Evan Fournier off the bench. And then Peyton Pritchard added 5 points there as well. But this is a stark difference to what we saw at the start of the year. At the start of the year, you probably would have seen Tatum with 30 and Brown with 25. And they both played 35 minutes. And that's what it took for this team to beat the Hornets. Like, that's what you would have seen. It's so refreshing to see a balanced approach. And in that game, a lot of people were picking up. They had so much drive and kick because now they've got Smart, Tatum, Walker, Brown, and Fournier as 5 guys who you're pretty confident they can beat their man if they get the right matchup. And if you've got those people to rely on, it can get your offense flowing much better. I've criticised Brad Stevens in the past for, I thought he was one of the reasons it was too difficult. And now they've got help. I expect him to make it work there as well.
We stay in Boston for my stat line of the week. I love this guy, man. It's Robert Williams, okay? 20 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. He went 9 for 9 from the field. No turnovers in 26 minutes. Mad.
Love.
Robert Williams. The Tam Lord. Let's do the Time Lord. No, that's wrong. No, that's wrong. Okay. Right. But Bray, I want to talk about this because you are the guy who says, I wanted to party with Dennis Rodman, right? Paul Pierce went on his Instagram live, which seemed like a bachelor party where he was playing pokers and there was strippers everywhere. What is going on, Bray? What's he doing?
Honestly, it's insane that like he would do that in the year 2021. Like,
Has he just figured out what Instagram Live is?
I don't even know. Like, I don't know whether he'd like had too many and thought it was a good idea and was like, oh, this would be great, let's just do this, or whether he is just like classic old man, like, I'll take this, review it later, and maybe I'll post it if it's appropriate, and he's just not realised it's going live. I don't even know which one of those it was, but it's just funny. It's just one of the biggest. I don't know. Is it the biggest social media slip up since D'Angelo Russell was caught snitching?
KD's burners.
Oh, KD's burners. Yeah. Yeah. So the biggest thing since the burners and since the various burner accounts
and Brian Colangelo's burners as well. That was awful.
Yeah.
What's his face? Myers Leonard.
Oh yeah, that's a
counts.
great point.
Oh,
Very good
Yeah,
point.
jeez.
Okay, now
I think this is funnier though. Paul Pierce with a bunch of
this is not on the level of Myers Leonard. We've seen obviously Myers Leonard's now out of the league. Is Paul Pierce going to get dropped as a result of this? Probably not. I mean, is he going to? I think because he's a good analyst. I think he's good. He comes out with some outlandish stuff. People make fun of him. He's banters with people. Like people like watching him. He's kind of. I think he's got a place on the networks for a long time, and this is just quite funny. I don't think you can be offended by it, but I don't think many people are going to be offended by it. So, that's going to be a tough meeting. You know, I'm like, oh, what did I do? Oh man, I got to meet with some Disney bosses, and we're gonna have to talk some stuff out. I might get fined, suspension, something like that.
Ray, you describing Paul Pierce sounds like he's your NBA and this spirit animal. Like everything you're saying about him makes me thought that's what you think you are, how you think you do on this pod. I think you're a good match.
I don't know. I mean,
You think you're better than Dwayne Wade?
am I better than Dwayne Wade? I don't know. I haven't watched.
Have you got a better career than Dwayne Wade?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
They don't love you like that. They don't love you like that.
Dude, best Paul Pierce moment, throwing the headband into the stands and it gets thrown back. Ultimate disrespect.
Disrespectful.
They ain't got love for you like that.
Dude,
You ain't Kobe.
You ain't Kobe.
He's silent.
You ain't Kobe.
Like, Draymond owned him. He was silent. He got him so good. He was like, yeah, you're actually right. Let's head to Tampa. Yes, we're not heading to the Six. We're still in Tampa because that's where the Raptors are. Really struggling this season. They're 1-2 this week. They're 19-30 overall. Talk about Canada's team. Lancashire Lambert.
The Raptors. Well, yeah, they've won 2 of their last 15 games. It's a very, very poor run of form of late. The last time that I spoke about the Raptors, I put their poor run of form down to them missing 3 of their key starting 5 in Van Vliet, Siakam and Anunoby. Well, they've all returned, and since their return, the poor form has continued. Since the return of them all, they've had defeats to the Pistons twice, the Cavs, the Rockets and OKC. So it is grim for the Toronto Raptors at the moment. Where do we start? This week, they got beat by the Blazers 122-117. in which they scored 74 points in the first half and led by 6. However, they proceeded to go and score 10 points in the third quarter. And that was what ultimately cost them the game, as they lost by 5 points. That was obviously the first game after the trade for Norman Powell and Gary Trent Jr. So Norman Powell scored 13 points for the Blazers, and then Gary Trent Jr. Got 6 points and 7 rebounds for the Raptors. And then, another defeat after that to the Pistons, 118-104. In the main standout from that game was that the Pistons bench scored 65 points to the Raptors 24. So pretty embarrassing there. And the Pistons shot 50% from the field and from 3-point range, whereas the Raptors only shot 40% and 30% from those splits. So poor there. And then a loss to OKC, in which they got beat 113-103. Again, similar to the Blazers game, they're actually up. They're up by 8 at the half and even up by 2 going into the fourth quarter. However, they only scored 14 points in that final quarter, which, again, ultimately cost them the game. Although some positives from that was Gary Trent Jr. got a career high of 31 points, 6 3-points from 11 shots, and Anunoby chipped in with 20 points too. And there was also 11 rebounds. However, the main reason, again, for that defeat, OKC, 64 rebounds to the Raptors 35. So just getting crushed everywhere. And then, of course, as I touched on earlier with the Warriors, they absolutely demolished them 130-77, which was the biggest win in the NBA this season.
Drop those stats.
And the biggest in Raptors franchise history. Yes, we're ending on a positive. Gary Trent Jr., 24 points, plus 50. It's the second most of all time on the plus minus. Plus 57 is in first place. Pascal Siakam was plus 49, therefore makes him the third highest of all time now. He got 36 points on his 27th birthday. Nice little contribution for him. And the stat that really shocked me the most. So the first quarter and the final quarter, the Raptors actually only won by 1 point in each of those. However, across the second and the third quarters put together, they outscored the Warriors 81-30. So, wow, 51-point margin across 2 quarters. So, yeah, wow. They finally turned up.
Matt, you spoke about Trent Jr. On my thing, it says plus 54, but it is the second all time. And like you said, plus 57 is the highest. Can anybody guess, Matt? Obviously, if you know, don't guess. Can anybody guess who this player is? And I'll tell you a clue. This player was featured in the Sixers photo that I sent across, where it's all of them standing. The tanking team. Embiid's there. Noel's there. It's a player from that.
I mean, those are the only two I knew from that. So
I can put you out. I can put you out of the misery. Can we do that? Yeah. Mbaro Mute.
Oh no, I wouldn't have got that.
Mbaro Mute.
Luke.
Plus 57 in a Rockets win versus the Nuggets in 2017. Wow. Yeah, but like you said, Gary Trent Jr. plus 54, second best mark since they started tracking this in 96. That's crazy. I didn't know about the Siakam thing. He was third. We'll stick on Trent Jr. He's averaging 16.8 points per game, 3.6 rebounds per game, and 43% from 3. What have you seen from him since you joined the team, Matt?
I think when the trade first happened, there's obviously the switch with Norman Powell. So I was just having a look through the numbers, and they're actually pretty similar between the two of them in terms of, like, Norman Powell's getting 20 points per game, Trent Jr. gets about 17, and those shooting splits that you just mentioned are pretty similar between the two. Obviously, the advantage for the Raptors out of this deal is that Trent Jr. is 5 years Powell's junior. But in terms of his performances of late, he obviously had a bit of a slower start in his first couple of games, but really picked up well. Again, as I touched on in OKC, he got that career high 31 points, and then this great contribution against the Raptors as well with 24 points. So it seems like he's clicked in already. Obviously, like, big boots to fill with Norman Powell, because he was just shooting the lights out in his past few weeks for Toronto. But if he can be like this steady contributor and keep chipping away 18, 19, 20 points per game, it's perfect. It's a perfect deal for the Raptors, especially considering he's only 22 years of age.
Yeah, great point. They've got youth on their side of that deal. Let's see where the Raptors end up at the end of the season. That is a really interesting storyline. Let's head to New York. Let's close out the Atlantic with House Lasky. 1-3 this week. They're 25-25 overall. Same record as the Celtics, as we spoke about earlier. Ed, let's talk about the Knicks.
Copy and paste everything Bray said about the Celtics. We'll put it in New York about all the positives. Now, again, if at the start of the season, if we were to say the Celtics are 500, if the Knicks are 500, then yeah, you would be super pleased with that. As you mentioned, Alex, 25-25. They went 5-6 since the last time we spoke, so they were above 500 last time we spoke. But again, still there and thereabouts. 1-3 this week, and their losses. Well, I'll go on a bit more about them a bit later. So, in that sort of 10-game. Some of their losses, so those 5 losses, they lost to the Nets they were all very close. They lost to the Nets by 5 points. They lost to the Sixers by 3 points. Then had another game, Sixers went to overtime, lost by a point. And they also lost to the Timberwolves by a point. There was some really nice play by Anthony Edwards at the end of the game against RJ Barrett, and which is why I felt, you guys being a bit too harsh on the boy Anthony Edwards. I think he's, for the situation he is in Minnesota, I think he's doing pretty well. I mean, he is getting a lot of shots, but it's not easy to be taking all the shots on the team. Not everyone can do it anyway. But I think you guys are being a bit harsh on Anthony Edwards. But hey, we're not talking about the Timberwolves. During their last 10 games, there's only really been 3 games where they managed to score more than 105 points, and which is very, very low considering how it's just such an offensive league nowadays. They got 106 points against Washington, 131 points again against Washington, 125 points against the Pistons. So they are really struggling on the offensive end and being able to score points. Defensively, again, they're still really, really good and can still cause a lot of team issues, but it's just getting the offensive output that you would want. It's just not there. And then I was starting to think about their team and watching their games. And I'm like, cool. You know what Julius Randle will give you? He'll give you a bunch of buckets. And then outside of Julius, you've got RJ. I mean, still in the second year, still a little bit inconsistent at time, but can get you points. Then you've got Reggie Bullock, Alec Burks. And I'm like, well, actually, all the remaining scorers are guards. So I went to check this up and I was like, oh shit. Outside of Julius Randle, there is no big man who gets them any points at all. So Julius Randle, 23 points. RJ Barrett, 17 a game. Alec Burks, 13 a game. Emmanuel Quickley, 12 a game. Alfred Payton, 12 a game. Derrick Rose, 12 a game. Reggie Bullock, 10 a game. That is 8 players, and only one of them is a front court player. And all the offensive workload and that sort of and that end of the court, it's all on Julius Randle. You'll have to go down to Mitchell Robinson, who's averaging 8 points a game, but has been injured for most of the year. And then Taj Gibson, who's played 23 games, who's averaging 5 points. Then you get down to Nerlens Noel.
I can't believe he's made a comeback.
Super good. I saw him a couple games against the Magic, and he did really well against Fuji a couple times to limit his possessions. He played really physical with him. And then Nerlens Noel, 5 points a game as well. Kevin Knox, 5 points a game. Obi Toppin, 4 points a game averaging. It's really disappointing, their front court production. Yeah, exactly. And then the reason why I looked into this as well is I have a look at some more of their advanced offensive stats. They are last in possessions per game this year. They only got 99 possessions per game. The second this year and the last from last year was 100, which again, it's not that much, but if you've got one less possession every single game, I guess it totals up. And especially when you're losing these close games, as I mentioned, 1 point game, 3 point games in overtime, you would like to have those extra possessions. They've also got the second lowest pace in the NBA, so they're not really pushing the ball. No, sorry, they've got the lowest pace in the NBA. They're not really pushing the ball that much, and they've got the second lowest assist percentage. So again, it's a lot of ISO ball, and the ball isn't moving around as much as you're like. I guess part of it is because they don't necessarily have the talent. They don't have a point guard who. It would be really nice if they can have a point guard who can distribute the ball as a playmaker and can also make some shots and drive to the rim a bit more. But again, saying that, I just said that they don't have any front court players either. So there is a bit of a talent gap for New York.
a New York state of mind, though. What the New York Foundations, they're built across a ball handling and guard heavy play. So that's quite interesting. That the personality behind the team is that. Ed, I wanted to ask you something quite personal. So Knicks fans in attendance against the Mavs, they shouted, "KP sucks," because Porzingis was playing against them and obviously had the falling out with the organisation. It didn't end too well. Ed, I want to know, if you were a fan, which player would you want to be?
Good question. I wouldn't say Aaron Gordon, but he's getting close to that.
Wow, it's turned on him real quick.
Howard on
Give me a player. Go on.
Who? No, I need to think because I want to give a right answer. Give me the countdown clock. Give me the countdown clock.
Wally, can you give me the Jeopardy music? The Jeopardy music? No, Jeopardy. I want Jeopardy.
Oh, sorry. Oh man, that's stumped me now.
What we need while this is going on is like images of like hecklers, like Ed Sims, like
and the monkey,
like
monkey with the symbol.
in the meantime, for me, if I was at a cat game.
You're a prick. You're a prick.
Dude, he won't sum up that dunk. We haven't talked about that. What about Jordan, Matt? Who do you want to be?
Ooh.
I'm going to take the moral high ground here and say no one, because I'm a nice person.
Yeah, town.
Nah, like as much as like that's a politically correct answer to that thing, I'd probably boo D Wade. Still angry about the dunk contest.
Did you see Shaq's comeback for that? Oh, that was brilliant. When they were talking about the 50 number.
I mean, I defaced the Josh Smith jersey with Damari Carroll, so I guess that's the right thing.
Oh, man.
Ed, come on.
I don't have anyone I really dislike. Like, if you told me football, I fucking hate El Hadji, so I would have said El Hadji for football. But like for NBA, I can't really think of anyone I dislike, even historically. I don't think there's a player I specifically dislike that's a like little bit of a prick. I can't think of anyone.
Kenny Smith?
Well, I'm sure. Oh, yeah, perfect.
You're right.
Yeah, I got you.
You know what? I changed my mind. I know I didn't say anything, but I thought of the perfect one. Bradley Beal, just to see him do the me.
Yeah,
that's really good. That's really good. All right, cool. Leaderboard time. And as you guys know, the leaderboard is updated. Thank you, whoever did that. While we're going through, well done, Mr. Bray. The reason Bray is feeling like this is because we have a little bet. If Bray goes under 400, I slip up to the number 5 spot. But as well, you can't see, but I will tell you that Bray is currently still in last spot. He's 120 to 177, but he's over the 400 mark. That's not something to be celebrating about, man. That's not good. That's not a good look, bro. Timberwolves' worst team, best team are the Heat. Finally, you got a team over 500. Wow. Lancashire Lambert in 4th place, 131 to 152. You're at 46%. Your best team is Denver Nuggets, who are rolling. Look out for them. I think they're a contender. And your worst team is the Wizards, or it might be the Cavs. Yeah. In 3rd place, as always, is the Pro Antic Express, Mr. Blackout. You are 155 to 139. You continue to climb. You're at 52% now. Wildy, you're rolling. Your best team, the in Arizona, the Suns, and your worst team is Detroit. House of 03. Go on, Wildy. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, like, out of my divisions, Hawks are tied in the top of their division. Suns are top of their division. And I've got one more that's top of their division. It's just Detroit are that bad that they are anchoring the boat that is trying to sail towards Jordan's Island.
Yeah, well, you got to hope that they play some good teams, because that's the only teams they seem to beat. But yeah, so House of 03, 2nd place is as normal. 162 to 133. He's at 54%, but right on 55%. Your best team are the Nets, and your worst team are the Bulls. Oh my god. And then House Lasky. Very close. 169 wins, 137 losses. You're at 55%. So there's 1% separating you. And to be honest, I think you're pretty happy that LeBron and AD are down right now, because the Lakers are anchoring it down.
No happier than me. I'm coming out second spot, John.
Oh boy, you better fix your camera, boy.
You wait, man. You wait. Don't worry.
Your best team, Ed, is the Clips, and your worst team is the Magic. Yeah. So
what? Utah? What are you on about?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. The Jazz. The Jazz are your best team. I was testing you.
Gosh, you are part of the reason. You are part of the reason why Utah gets no respect. It's all your fault, Alex.
Well, tell
You're
them to turn up.
going to take them first?
I will not reveal my tactics. I will not reveal my tactics. To be fair, I was doing a little mock thingy, like seeing how I would take the teams, and it gets very interesting once you get down to the second round. I was like,
That's a nice. All right, cool. That wraps up week 16 in terms of division discussion. We are gonna take a short break, and we'll be back with Shoot Your Shot.